You see him on the news.
CNN.com contributor, Dean Obeidallah. So, Dean...
Watch him at comedy clubs.
When I say Mecca, do you think of a holy place or an urban clothing line?
Read his articles. And you hear him on the radio. The Dean Obeidallah Show is on live right here on SiriusXM Progress, Channel 127.
And welcome to the show, brothers and sisters of the Resistance. And yes, we are still the Resistance. And I think it's getting stronger. And we'll talk about that more in the show later. I'm Dean Obeidallah. Hoping to be your MBFF. I'm on Twitter at Dean Obeidallah, Facebook.com/Dean of Radio. Daily reminder, today is day 24 of Donald Trump's shutdown. A shutdown not supported by a majority of Americans who feel very strongly the government should open, including some Republicans. But sadly, Trump's base, though, was all on board with this. And as we all know, and we've said countless times, Donald Trump is neither president of the United States, nor does he want to be president of the United States of America. He wants to be king of his base, and his base seems happy, although new polling numbers over the weekend show that seems to be slightly chipping away. So we'll see what happens. Interesting day today. Donald Trump tweeted this morning, quote, getting ready to address the farm convention today in Nashville, Tennessee. Love our farmers, love Tennessee, great combination. See you in a little while. So he's getting ready to go to Nashville, Tennessee. Here's the problem. The convention he was going to was in New Orleans, Louisiana. But Trump doesn't care about facts like that. And so about an hour later, he deletes this tweet because someone goes, by the way, you're not going to Tennessee. You're going to a whole different state. He didn't retweet he didn't come out with a new tweet saying, look forward to New Orleans. Nope. Didn't seem like he doesn't maybe not look forward to New Orleans. And maybe he's got a good reason why he shouldn't, because he went to the farm convention at their big convention center, the one we broadcast live from last August where the Netroots convention was, so I'm familiar with it. Outside the convention center, big protest of federal workers who've been laid off who want to work. And here's a quick clip of them. Here's clip number one.
Ban the shutdown! Ban the shutdown! Ban the shutdown! Ban the shutdown!
So there are people, and there were other chants about we want to work. I mean, there are people literally begging to work. This is where we are. People literally begging to go back to their jobs. And then this chant happened outside organically. You've got to hear this because it's gone viral now on social media. This is true. This is from today, clip 2.
Lock him up! Lock him up! All right.
Lock him up. They were cheering, lock him up. Now, that was not inside the rally of the farmers or the convention. That was outside, but there were a lot of people outside, and they were loud chanting, lock him up, lock him up. There are people suffering in this country. There are people suffering. And little by little, the ripples of the Trump shutdown go beyond the 800,000 workers. It's going beyond the estimated 4 million federal contractors who will not get back pay. And it's getting broader and broader than that. You know, over the weekend, Trump was asked about, can he relate to people living paycheck to paycheck? And here is his response. I don't play too many Trump clips, but I want you to hear it. There's some little audio behind it. It might be muffled, so I'll read the comment afterwards. Here's clip 3.
Mr. President, can you relate to the pain of federal workers who can't pay their bills?
I can relate, and I'm sure that the people that are on the receiving end will make adjustments. They always do, and they'll make adjustments. People understand exactly what's going on. But many of those people that won't be receiving a paycheck, many of those people agree 100% with what I'm doing.
So there's Donald Trump saying, yes, he was asked point blank, can you relate to the pain of federal workers who can't pay their bills? And Trump can, because Trump suffered a lot. He goes, yes, I can relate. And he goes on to say the workers who are not getting paid, who are struggling to put food on their table, all support his ridiculous plan. Of course, Donald Trump, he's suffered a lot. I mean, there was a time once, Donald Trump, and you're going to, hold on, you might cry when I tell you this. In his limo, they did not have Grey Poupon mustard. He had to eat like French's mustard. Oh my, I know. Another time, his golf clubs actually had like a little mud on it, and he had to use his own little hands to clean the mud off because the caddy was not around. Unreal. Yes, heartbreaking. Donald Trump, the man who began his adult life with a $60 million gift loan from his dad, worth now $140 million, if they said, but in reality, $60 million. And those who doubt that, he admitted to $1 million, but everything else says $60 million. This is a man who, when asked about sacrifice for our nation with Howard Stern in 1999, talked about his great sacrifice. He said, "My sacrifice was not getting a sexually transmitted disease in the 1980s," saying, quote, "I've been so lucky in terms of that world. It's a dangerous world out there. It's scary, like Vietnam, sort of like the Vietnam era. It is my personal Vietnam." Adding, "I feel like a great and very brave soldier." Oh, that Donald Trump, he has really sacrificed for this nation. He knows what it's like to live paycheck to paycheck, doesn't he? Donald Trump has given nothing to nobody. In fact, here's Kaiser Khan from the DNC convention, 2016, making that exact point. And it's relevant. I'll get to it in a second. Here's clip 4.
Have you even read the United States Constitution? I will gladly lend you my copy. You have sacrificed nothing and no one.
You have sacrificed nothing and no one. That should be Donald Trump's slogan in 2020. Trump sacrificed nothing and no one. In fact, when he was on TV a few days later with George Stephanopoulos, who asked him, "Have you ever sacrificed for this country?" Just like over the weekend, he said, "Sure, I can relate to workers who aren't getting paid." He told us he sacrificed just like a Gold Star father who had lost his child, like Kaiser Khan lost his son, Captain Humayun Khan, who was killed in Iraq saving his own troops. But to Donald Trump, he had his own sacrifice that is on that same level of a Gold Star father. And hear the words of Donald Trump, because you know how truthful and honest Trump is. Here's clip 5.
How would you answer that, Father? What sacrifice have you made for your country?
I think I've made a lot of sacrifices. I work very, very hard. I've created thousands and thousands of jobs, tens of thousands of jobs, built great structures. I've had tremendous success. I think
those are sacrifices?
Oh, sure. I think they're sacrifices.
Yeah, working is a sacrifice, equivalent to a Gold Star father losing his son. That's Donald Trump. You know, over the weekend, I was on Joy Reid's show on Saturday and Reverend Al's show on Sunday, and we had really good conversations about the real world impact of Donald Trump's shutdown. Forget the politics. I don't care what side of the aisle you're on. I want you to remember there are human beings who are involved. 800,000 workers who are not getting paid now for over 3 weeks. Think for a second in your life. If you were not paid for 3 weeks, how would it impact you? And worst of all, you have no idea when the next paycheck is coming, because Donald Trump vowed over the weekend to keep this going on for a long time, if need be. It could be next week. It could be a month and a half from now. In America, only 40% of Americans have $1,000 in their bank account. Only $1,000, 40%, meaning 60% cannot cover that cost. If you're not paid for 3 weeks, you're burning through that. It's gone. Because you have to pay rent and mortgage and car payment and food for yourself and your family and deductibles for health care, and the list goes on. And again, and I wish the media would cover this part, it's not just 800,000 federal government workers. We're talking an estimated 4 million federal contractors and subcontractors. From what I've read, not every single one of that number will be impacted by the shutdown, but a great number will. But here's the truth. None of them are expected to get back pay because they never got back pay in the past. So you're talking about private corporations where the funding is for a government project and they're working for a federal contractor through a company and they're let go, laid off, no pay. Maybe they go to unemployment. But it's beyond that now. And here are some other things I wish the media would talk about. And I don't mean our media because we talk about it, but I mean the cable news media where people are getting their news about how the shutdown has far greater impact and the ripples from this go far greater than those people who are not getting paid. It goes to now the Federal Drug Administration has said that they've stopped routine food safety inspections of seafood, fruits, vegetables, and many other high-risk foods of contamination because of the shutdown. They normally examine operations at 160 domestic manufacturing and food processing plants each week. That means for 3 weeks, folks, there's been no routine inspections. The FDA oversees about 80% of the nation's food supplies. As the New York Times noted, these are inspections where they catch issues before people get sick. And what's the real world impact? Here it is. Foodborne diseases. In the U.S., send 128,000 Americans to the hospital every year and kill 3,000 people, according to the Center for Disease Control. And that's when the FDA is doing routine inspections. That's when they're flagging us that the romaine lettuce that's out in your store might get you sick or even kill a child or an older person who's weaker immune system. They're not there. They're not there to check the seafood or the lettuce or the processing plants. The Federal Aviation Administration, this affects all of us again if you fly. There's less redundancy in inspections by the FAA. Here is a clip of an inspector down in New Orleans Airport talking about what his job is and what's happening now, number 6.
There's no oversight of the industry right now.
Lanick Raytard is an aviation safety inspector. Federal inspectors like him come into airports when needed. They serve as an extra layer of security, which for now is not present.
Your airline mechanic is waking up, going to work, and doing his inspections without oversight. They don't have an FAA counterpart making sure that everything's being done properly.
Concerning for passengers.
It's frightening, right? It's frightening. As somebody who travels frequently, it's scary.
Look, I don't want to make it seem like tomorrow you're going to get sick from your food or a plane's going to fall out of the sky. But every day this goes on, experts, and I don't pretend to be one, but experts say the risks are escalating. I can't quantify it, but now we're 3 weeks and 1 day, 23 days into FDA food inspectors not doing their job. You are 3 weeks, 23 days, and 18 hours, according to CNN, of FAA inspectors not doing the redundancy inspections on mechanical work. Of course, the airlines want to make everything safe. The last thing they need is a crash. So things are safe in all likelihood, yes. But you're losing the redundancy that is there for a reason. And now we're having real world impact that everyone can see. Today, Washington Dulles Airport became the latest airport to close screening lanes because of unpaid TSA agents calling in sick. Over the weekend, Miami International Airport and Houston's George Bush Airport announced checkpoint closures because of higher than usual rates of no-shows by TSA agents. To remind everyone, TSA agents are forced to go to work and not get paid. It's a stressful job. If you've ever seen them, people are difficult to them, and not to get paid and keep doing it and having no idea when your next paycheck is, it's really hard. And here's more minor things. Atlanta's Hartsfield Jackson Airport, the busiest airport in the world, literally. It's now the security lines are over an hour long today because of TSA agents calling in sick. So you're going to start seeing more and more of what's going on. And then today, Donald Trump went to his farm convention to speak to farmers. And this shutdown affects them. Because of Donald Trump's trade war, many of them have lost a great deal of money. And the post from Saturday, so it's really important. Everyone listen to what he talks about, how his soybean products, what they're selling for now. And keep this in mind, if that's your primary source of revenue and you're getting 50% on the revenue, it hurts. And second, they can't even get the checks they need for subsidies to keep going because of the Trump shutdown. So here's clip number 7.
My farming operation is shut down, and the United States Department of Agriculture is closed, and the president promised soybean producers like myself and the other 30,000 soybean producers around the country a bailout, a relief package for totals to about $1.65 a bushel for farming operations like mine. And since the government is closed, I can't get my check. And we've been calling, and it's been more delays. And this all stemmed from the president's lowest prices in history for farmers due to the president's tariffs. In 2012, I was selling soybeans for roughly $16 a bushel, and today I'm selling soybeans for $8 a bushel. So we're facing the lowest prices, and now we can't get our relief payments from the United States Department of Agriculture, and I believe it's because poor leadership and bad decisions by President Trump.
You heard it right from a farmer's mouth. That's what's going on. There's no left or right. This is the real world. This is Donald Trump's doing. Why? Over a wall that polls over the weekend showed that, first of all, a solid majority of Americans, different polls, 57 to almost 60%, hold Trump responsible. Only about 30% of Americans hold Democrats responsible. That's sort of the Trump base right there, 30%. And on the question of the wall, Washington Post poll yesterday, only 42% of Americans support Trump's wall, but 87% of the Republicans do. So 87% of Republicans want this wall. And that's all that matters to Donald Trump. The rest of us are collateral damage. We don't matter in Donald Trump's world. That 7% is all he cares about. Here was something even more scary, and this wasn't covered much. They asked voters about Trump invoking emergency powers to build his wall to circumvent Congress and spend $6 billion without the permission of Congress. Now, 66% of Americans said no to that. They thought it was wrong. 66%. That's a big percentage in our hyper-partisan world. But of Republicans, 2/3 said they would support Trump's decision to declare an emergency, meaning 2/3 of Republicans are fine with a king. I have no doubt the same 2/3 would have called President Obama a dictator and a tyrant for anything he wanted to do. But when it came to Donald Trump, 2/3 of the GOP not only supported a wall, they supported him invoking emergency powers to circumvent Congress and, like a king who signs an edict or proclamation, build a wall, make our military go down there and spend $6 billion or more of our dollars without the consent of our Congress. What does this say about the GOP base? They have no problem if America became Trumpistan. They really don't. And this poll says it all. So Trump doesn't care. We are far from 2020. He may or may not run for re-election. He's saying yes. Who knows if he does or he doesn't. Overwhelmingly, though, Americans are against this. They blame Trump for it. And interestingly, Donald Trump's favorite poll, and I think Michelangelo may have mentioned it, is Rasmussen. Rasmussen poll is a right-leaning poll. If you're on Twitter, you see Trump brag about that poll when he gets 51% approval rating or 50% approval rating. In fact, in November, right before the election, in that Rasmussen poll, Donald Trump had a 51% approval rating. 51%. It's a daily tracking poll. Where is he at today? He has fallen to 43%. 43%. That means the GOP base is beginning to ebb away because this is an oversample Republican poll. And a CNN poll, and I don't say this because I care what motivates Trump supporters as much. I don't. But if he's only about his base, this might be an indication to his mindset. Overall, CNN poll over the weekend, only 37% of Americans approve of Donald Trump. Here's the interesting part. Of white men without a college degree, which is his base, who loves him, who 2.5 months ago, he was up 15 points on that demographic. The new poll, white men, no college degree, 47% disapprove, 45% approve. Because his base is being hurt by this shutdown. The idea they're all Democrats is a lie. There's a reason why Lisa Murkowski, a senator in Alaska, came out publicly against it, because she has nearly 15,000 federal employees who work in her state. And on a percentage basis, that's a good size. Tom Tillis in North Carolina, Republican up for re-election 2020, 45,000 federal workers. Cory Gardner in Colorado, thousands of federal workers, Republican up for re-election in 2020. They're peeling away. Lindsey Graham, even today, yesterday and today, floated a temporary end to the shutdown for 3 weeks and negotiate in good faith in that time. Trump said no today. Point blank, no. This is a Trump shutdown. We're stuck. What it will take is this word that they don't have in the GOP. It's called courage. But the GOP doesn't have courage because this shutdown ends tomorrow. If Mitch McConnell comes out of his hole and sees his shadow, or doesn't see his shadow, whatever it might be, and says, we're going to have a vote because there's enough votes in the Senate right now to pass a clean funding bill. No problem, no doubt whatsoever. It's only 53-47 in the Senate. There's already 4 or 5 Republican senators who said, I would vote to end the shutdown. It's going to take that to pass. The House already passed. They go to Trump. He vetoes it, but they tell Trump in private, we are going to override your veto. What do you think of that? How embarrassed would you be to be overridden by a Republican-controlled chamber? It's going to take that kind of courage that they don't have on the right to end this shutdown, because it's that simple. This ends literally in the next day or two. They did that. They pass it. It goes to Trump. He vetoes it. They go sit with him and go, we're going to call a vote. We're going to override your veto. The whole nation and the world is going to see you embarrassed by not just the House Democrats, which was expected, but the GOP-controlled Senate. And that would change things. It takes courage. The GOP doesn't have courage. They fear Donald Trump. Or it really is Trump is the GOP and the GOP is Trump. That's where we stand right now. So let's take a break. I'd love to hear from you, especially if you're impacted in any way by this shutdown. I think it's important people hear human stories. This is no longer a political issue. It's a Trump versus America issue, and people are suffering. And the more people who share stories of what they're going through, their family or friends are going through, I hope it moves others, because It's not just the federal workers, it's all of us. And in the big picture, global picture, folks, the economy is slowing because of this. Because you have several million out of work between the federal contractors and federal employees. Now we have a big uptick in unemployment claims. People are not spending money. The economy is going to contract. No way around it. It can rebound. Well, this could go for another month. Trump doesn't care. He really doesn't care. I can't put it any more bluntly. He does not care. He is a baby with a temper tantrum, holding America hostage. So let's take a break. I'd love to hear from you. 866-997-4748. Be right back. Look, it's time the media start calling out Trump's false statements for what they are. Lies. Trump is a liar. And by the looks of it, he's lying every day and twice on Sundays.